Hello and welcome to TEQ. Today we are talking about tech empowerment, boosting performance, focus, and recovery. And your host, that's me, Carolina Milanesi, needs all of that after these couple of months that have been extremely busy and more months to come that are going to be extremely busy. So what we're going to talk today is really the fascinating world of cognitive enhancement and mental training, to focus on harnessing technology to really train your brains for better focus, faster recovery, and enhanced performance. And although all of that sounds like sport, I would argue that that sounds for anybody who has a busy lifestyle, especially in a corporate environment. And to discuss all of this, I'm delighted to have Jorrit DeVries, who's the CEO of alphabeats. And alphabeats, if you haven't heard of the brand yet, is because they're just getting started in the US, and they are really at the forefront of blending neurofeedback and music to create a powerful tool for cognitive training. Jorrit has 20 plus years of experience with global brands like Spotify and Samsung, Vodafone, Warner Music, and he's really always been focused on this crossing between technology and music. And with that, I will ask you to help me welcome Jorrit to the conversation, all the way from Europe. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Carolina. Yeah, all the way from sunny Nijmegen in the Netherlands right now.
There you go. And I don't know if it's sunny there or not. It looks like it, but
it's pretty good. Yeah, it's one of these 5 days that are great, right?
I know the feeling. I lived in England long enough to enjoy the 5 days of summer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to start with really asking more from a personal perspective, given your extensive pedigree of both marrying technology and music, what drew you to join as a late founder alphabeats and get on this journey?
Yeah, it's a combination of factors that really all came together like a puzzle that looked too good to be made, actually, because it's a Dutch company, and I live in the US for over 10 years already. And I always looked out for these opportunities to stay connected and be more connected with my home country in the Netherlands. It's a company, as you mentioned in your intro, that use music to drive an innovative technology as EEG feedback and neurofeedback. And it's a startup environment that really helped me to flex a new muscle and bring my corporate background into the mix, but also develop myself basically from the ground up, because I've never looked at so many topics on a day-to-day basis that I kind of never dealt with when you're in a corporate job and you have a very straightforward remit. Once you join a startup, especially with my two co-founders, you basically have to divvy up all the work between the three of you, and then work with your teams, which are obviously smaller than in a large company, to get everything done. So also that personal development was really appealing to me.
I love that, and I kind of went through a similar thing from going from Gartner, who's a large organization, to my own company. So I feel the pain and the excitement that you feel as well, wearing multiple hats and dealing with the day to day. For our audience, I said it very briefly. Can you explain a little bit more what alphabeats actually does in the helping the brain train for recovery and focus?
Yeah, and it's in essence, when you explain you can go different ways, right? You can go deep, broad, really into the technology, but at the surface, I always start with, it's a brain gym for athletes. That's how we are positioned. That's what we're trying to do, and that's how we're trying to kind of open up the discussion about what is neurofeedback and how does alphabet fit into that nascent space, because it hasn't been around for that long compared to some of the other technologies, right? But what makes alphabets unique is that they use the notion of being able to measure your brain output, and by using music and cognitive games, that combination to train your brain to more focus. And if you
go ahead.
No, and if you think about focus, there is basically five dominant brainwaves that are constantly modulating in your head. And if you're in delta, you're sleeping, and if you're in theta, you're a high alert. And we're probably somewhere close to theta right now. We're working, we're trying to have this conversation, but where you want to be is in alpha. And alpha is that brain state where you're relaxed, where you're calm, where you can take a deep breath, and where you can really start to move into a flow state. And that flow state, training that flow state, is very important for athletes. It's the state wherein they're able to do what they do best without distractions and without thinking about kind of the next best action, right? You're just doing it. And alphabeats has been able, on the back of Philips technology that has been developed over 10 years ago, to develop a very savvy tool that combines music, neurofeedback, and cognitive games to really give you that mobile capability to train your brain anywhere you are, and also anywhere in your journey, whether you're recovering from a training or whether you're preparing for the Olympics, and across the board.
Well, you stole my line of the Olympics, because we are just a few weeks away, a couple of weeks away actually, and this is very timely for athletes at that level, but I'm sure that is for everybody. Like, it's not just, to your point, it's not just about the training itself. Is the recovery, is afterwards, is preparing your mental flow during, and the stress level, I'm assuming, that comes with training at that level. How does it actually do it, though? Because you explained the what it does, but how does that happen?
A lot of it is in the secret sauce, and it's obviously.
I'm not asking you for that. It's okay.
No.
My audience is very nice, but
no, exactly. So we can share with them a bit more than we usually would do, right? So, but the trick is having your brain experience your favorite music in a different way than you're used to. So take for example, you start alphabeats and you open up a recovery session. It's a session of 8 to 12 minutes, depending on kind of the module you choose in the app, and you select your favorite music. So let's say your favorite music is pop music. So you select our playlist, pop music, and you get served with major label music. So basically everything you like to hear when your favorite genre is pop. And the first couple of minutes of this session is an eyes closed meditation where you listen to your favorite song. That song starts to change as soon as we recognize, through the use of the headband you're wearing, that your brain is distracted and you're in a different state than the alpha state. And then the app starts to change the way you experience the music in a subtle sense, that your brain starts to recognize it needs to go back to that state it was before, the alpha state, right? Or it needs to find that alpha state. And if you do that often enough, and we say 3 to 4 times a week, couple weeks in a row, you will start to see these effects. And our studies has also shown that you have residual effects. So even if you then stop using it for a while, your brain is still able to tap into alpha more than it is able to tap into alpha without alphabeats. So that's the very basic trick of alphabeats, where the combination of music, neurofeedback, and then the cognitive games that kind of wake up your brain after you did 3-4 minutes of this eyes closed meditation. That kind of play between these two elements will help you train your brain ultimately to be able to tap into alpha more and more, to get into the flow state better and better, to focus better and better.
So I was excited when we started talking, because for different reasons. One, because I always love startups, and if there's an opportunity for me to try and help, talk about your brand, I will do it. But there's a personal interest in this, and I only used it twice so far. And for me, meditation just doesn't work. Like, I've never been able to just sit still and meditate. And what I found fascinating was that with the music, I wasn't focusing on the meditation, I was focusing on the music. So it became more natural to be able to find those moments in my day. And the other part is, I love music. And so it is one of those things. And music is the only thing that actually gets me away and helps me shut my brain down, so to speak, and get into that flow state. So, if you're a skeptic like I am around meditation, and I know there are a lot of people that are very good at that, uh, and like I said, I'm not. This for me was just a game changer, and I'm no athlete by any means, but I do have a stressful life, and finding that focus either
Yeah.
before or a relaxation moment after a busy day it was really something else. And what I'm fascinated, and I want you to talk a little bit more about, is what you were saying about you have studies that shown that there are residual effects after the use, because I think to
Yeah.
me that is really the difference between training your brain to do something versus using medication to trick your brain into feeling a
Yeah.
certain way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to go back to your point, you're not an athlete. We actually think you are. So we talk about the corporate athlete as well, right? So
That's
so
true.
anybody with a busy life, yeah. And when you're a startup, and we launched in the US on May 20th, and we started to obviously track the first cohort of clients pretty closely, right? Who is stepping into our story, who's buying our product, who is excited about what we do. And what we saw is that it was not only athletes, and our go-to market is really focused on athletes. If you go to listenalphabeats.com, you see it's a very athlete-focused story. But we have anywhere between yoga practitioners to bank CEOs to Olympians. Obviously, we have a bunch of those using alphabeats. So you're an athlete, Carolina. That's first and foremost, a corporate athlete. And then if you then go to the second part of the question, if you look at the research, that's the beauty about our solution, and the fact that we're approaching this step by step based on the research that has been done over the last 10 years, predominantly in the Netherlands, around how alphabeats works and what effects we have. We have been able to establish that you could use neurofeedback to train the brain, to train alpha. We have established that it works in an athletic setting. We have also established that people that are using alphabeats have a 33% higher alpha score than people who don't. And we have established that music as a dominant factor is really good to train your brain. And that makes it accessible for everybody, because the power of music is pretty universal. The only difference is the kind of music you like to listen to, right? And I cannot imagine that some people can relax on certain types of music,
Yeah.
but they cannot imagine that I can relax on the music that I listen to, right? But end of the day, we all do the same thing, right? We need music to focus our brain, to calm down, and to get into this flow state. So that's a super powerful combination.
Yeah, I agree with you. And yeah, there's plenty of studies that show the impact of music, for instance, on dementia patients, and what a powerful tool it can be. Do you have any stories that you can share with us from some of your users that whether,
Yeah.
kind of C-suite athletes or real athletes?
No, so we have so on our website we have a lot of these stories, because we love to tell them. And the one we featured recently was Eamon. Eamon is a Taekwondo champion who really has perfected his craft, obviously, but also is very open about the role alphabeats plays into his training. Obviously, every athlete has multiple factors that contribute to their success, but the fact that alphabeats is also part of that regimen makes us very proud. So he tells a very compelling story about how he got alphabeats to help him with his focus in these crucial moments, when he's on the mat and playing his opponent. Another story is the FC Dallas goalie Maarten Paas, for example, who is very public about the fact that his grueling schedule and flying all across the US with his team really messes with his sleep from time to time. And for him, alphabeats is one of these tools that is helpful for to improve his sleep and to make sure that he can calm down his brain. Um, we have stories about esports and gamers that have really difficult time to disconnect after like 7 hours of Call of Duty or anything for that matter. So and then we have a lot of stories that we don't share publicly, but they share with us of people that are actually on their way to Paris, that are on their way to Wimbledon right now, players, golf players, triathletes, American Olympians, Dutch Olympians. So it runs the gamut of success stories of people that use alphabeats for different parts of their training, recovery. It's not a one size fits all. It's really how does it fit in my type of sport, in my regimen. Well, do I use it in the morning before my workouts, or do I only use it in the evening, or do I have a combination of the two?
Is there a difference how you train your brain, whether you're getting ready to compete versus you're recovering? So, for performance versus recovery, or it doesn't matter?
I think it matters to a certain extent. We've researched both, and but the part that strikes us the most is the fact that you need to use it consistently, and the ability for you to tap into your alpha state, whether you need it to relax or whether you need it to focus, is really down to your ability to stick with the program and to do your 3, 4, 5 sessions a week for a couple of weeks in a row. Once you're into it, and once you find your flow, pun intended, then it works, and then you can decide if you want to use alphabeats for recovery. These sessions are set up differently than when you use alphabeats for flow. Or when you use alphabeats for focus. And then there is also the opportunity for some deeper relaxation. And these are some longer sessions that we offer that could take 20 to 30 minutes, music meditation, etc. So really, we baseline every user in the first 5 sessions. You have seen that now that you started with alphabeats, and then after that you can really pick your lane and pick your journey, and then alternate between.
Right now, the technology is delivered through a headband, which for athletes, I think is no different than a heart rate monitor, right? That you put around your chest. They're very kind of used to that. For maybe like a regular consumer, maybe that is a little bit getting used to. Do you see the opportunity to explore other kind of wearables going forward without sharing anything secretly, but like where do you
Yeah.
hope that the technology can go?
So we really track everything, and we already see a lot of promising signs. If you look at the large OEMs building headphones or smartphones,
Yeah.
whether they're based in the US or in Korea, you see that they're all focused on smaller form factors and bringing more health related and biosensing elements to their technology. Think about an EKG. It was unthinkable 20 years ago to do that on the fly,
On
and
phone.
now
Yep.
it's as small as a credit card. It's in your watch, and it's probably in rings at some point. So we also follow the patent landscape, and we see that these big OEMs are filing patents around EEG sensing through ear monitoring, etc. So I do think naturally what you see with all these technologies, the form factor will come down, the price will come down, the accessibility will go up. I think the fact that we're able to offer mobile EEG today through a headband is already a huge step forward, because before you needed to be in a lab setting with always call it the swim cap with all the bells
Yes.
and whistles on top, and now you're able with a sleek headband to monitor your brain activity on the go, essentially.
Yeah. So I'm curious from a brain training perspective. where you think, obviously I know, and I'm not trying to get you to talk, from a mental well-being perspective, because that becomes always tricky, because there's a different kind of clearance from an FDA perspective and all of that. But I do think that there's a lot of opportunity. I mentioned at the very beginning, the daily lives that we all live, and not just corporate people, like the level of stress we all have. And I'm
Yeah.
sure by November the level of stress will be even higher in
Yeah.
America. So where do
Yeah.
you see technology playing a role in really helping us, not just from a physical well-being, but from a mental well-being?
Yeah, yeah, it's the it's one of the quotes that my co-founder Han always uses when he is on stage, and he talks about the World Health Organization's claim that chronic stress is the epidemic of our time, right? And that is something that we all need to figure out how to deal with it ourselves, but also what technology can do for us to alleviate that. And we do see, and that's more on a personal note, and also why I'm so interested in what alphabeats is doing, that anecdotally we see that there's a lot of factors surrounding chronic issues for around anxiety, for example, or around tinnitus, or around stress, or around all these elements. Other types of attention disorders, that neurofeedback plays a role there, that relaxation plays a role there, that certain regimens play a role there. So I can only imagine that if I would talk to my research team here in Eindhoven, that they're very interested to figure out over time what roles neurofeedback, music, and our solution can play there. At the moment, we have no research going on. We have no claims that we're playing in that field. We're really focused on mental performance, focus improvement, sleep, and recovery. But more on a personal note, I know my co-founders and my teams are super focused on what else can we do with this technology, what would it take, and how can we work together with other partners to figure that out.
So you have entered the US market, which is a little bit different from the European market when it comes to health services, as you know very well, having lived on both continents. Do you think that technology is helping also, not revolutionize, but really changing the power that I as an individual have versus my insurance provider, and putting me more in control of my well-being, with more tools like what you are providing, in that level of maybe not being as so dependent on expensive medications, and really understanding as well my body better?
Yeah, I think we all experience that. I think there's a lot of anecdotal stories about folks that really got life-saving treatment through smartwatch notifications, for example, right? I see it myself when I'm able to aggregate all the data that circulate within the health system about me or about my family, and I think you have more opportunity to choose and to guide your own path and journey based on the data you have access to, where maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago you basically had no clue what was going on, or getting access to that data was only for the happy few. So I do think more and more people get more and more control over their health journey, and over their also over their mental well-being, and the tools they can use to help themselves get through the day, the week, the job, difficult phases in life. So I think if you look at the data, for example, around mindfulness, and how the uptake of mindfulness in COVID spiked, that you could really correlate that to a very difficult period in time for anybody, and people were seeking out technology that could help them in place of confinement to really find alternatives to refocus their brain or to calm down, me included. So that's when I also got introduced these types of technologies that could really be beneficial, where before I might have been more skeptical.
And I think what you said earlier about changing the technology from, the swing cap with all the wires to something that you can use every day in your, everyday life versus a contained, lab environment. I think surely that is a big gain in data points that are true to your daily life versus try and replicate that experience in a day testing somewhere.
Yeah, exactly, and the accessibility for people. Anybody can jump on that
Right.
journey today. Yeah.
I always run out of time with conversations like this. So before I let you go, what are you most excited about, both from a company perspective? Entering the US market obviously is a big, exciting moment, but then from a technology itself, what excites you the most as to the journey that you're on with alphabeats?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think a couple of things for me jump out here. One is the fact that mental fitness, mental performance, mental health in general is really at a turning and at a crossroads where the stigma seems to be removed, right? And seems to be, I mean, there's a lot of role models that are already talking about the benefits of a fit brain, but also the fact that
Absolutely.
it's no problem to ask for help. You should. There's no issue in using technology or tools like mindfulness or alphabeats, for that matter, to help you improve your focus. So that really helps the whole industry, the whole sector to move forward. That will help technology to become more accessible. So I think that kind of crossroads means the beginning of a very interesting industry and a very and a growing industry. So that's one part. For me, the excitement of bringing something this accessible to the market and something that really fits, something that has been a red thread through my whole career, technology and music, is for me personally very exciting. So I think there's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of stories to tell about what neurofeedback means and what alphabeats can contribute to that, and how people can improve their mental fitness. But we have a great team, and we have all the time ahead of us to prove it out.
I said at the beginning, I love talking to startups and be a very, very small part in trying to get people to know what you do. But there's nothing more exciting for me to be able to do it with somebody that has really the opportunity to give more control on people's lives in a positive way, and mental well-being is absolutely critical today, especially if you're looking at the younger generation and the level of stress that they're under. So I'm very excited when I can marry technology and a positive social impact, and obviously, democratizing this level of technology is something that is super exciting. So I'm extremely grateful that you found the time to join us today to tell us more about what you do. And where can people go and find more about you and about alphabeats online?
Listenalphabeats.com. That's all you need to remember.
Awesome. And if people want to continue the conversation, I always encourage my listeners to not just end the conversation here, but continue. They can find you on LinkedIn, I'm assuming.
100%. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today from late in your day, early my morning. And I look forward to seeing the journey. And I will actually share my experience somewhat down the line, because I want to see, the impact after using it for a while. So stay tuned. I will share that in my stories, and look forward to seeing the progress and seeing what's next. Thank you so much for joining us, Jorrit.
Thank you, Carolina.